Brightest Homecoming. Long, long ago, the city of Ayodhya was quiet and worried. The good Prince Rama, his wife Sita, and his brother Lakshmana had been gone for many years, fighting a terrible darkness far away. In the distant land of Lanka, the final battle was over. Rama, with great bravery and help from his friends, had defeated the darkness. Now, it was time for the long journey home. News traveled faster than a river. A wise messenger bird arrived in Ayodhya, singing the news that the beloved royal trio was finally returning. The whole city rushed out to the riverbanks, peering down the empty road. Everyone wanted to see their prince and princess first. It felt like the longest wait in all the world. Kaushal decided waiting wasn't enough. "We must light the way," they whispered. "The journey is long, and we want them to know we remember them, even in the deepest night." Kaushal ran home and gathered every small clay lamp or diya they could find. They asked their mother for oil and wick, and soon they had a shining collection. Kaushal started placing the diyas along the path leading from the river to the palace gates. One by one, tiny specks of light began to bloom across the city streets. Soon their neighbors saw what Kaushal was doing. "What a wonderful idea!" they cried. They brought out their own lamps and began to light them too. More and more lamps were lit, up on the rooftops, along the winding roads, and floating on the gentle river water. 1,000,000 tiny lights sparkled like fallen stars. When Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana finally arrived, they were greeted not by darkness, but by a city bathed in brilliant golden light. Ayodhya was brighter than the sun. This welcoming light was more than just a decoration. It was a promise. It showed that goodness always returns, and light always defeats the dark. Every year, we remember this special homecoming. We light our diyas to celebrate the return of joy, the victory of good, and the wonderful twinkling start of Deepavali. Jyoti's brave light. Deep in a basket, on the morning of Deepavali, sat a tiny clay diya named Jyoti. She was plain, unpainted, and felt very small. "Oh dear," whispered Jyoti, "it is such a big day. Everyone is talking about the light, but I don't feel brave enough to shine." A bigger, brightly painted diya next to her, who smelled faintly of mango pickle, puffed out her chest. "Nonsense. We are here to defeat the darkness, little one." But Jyoti was still scared. She knew that beyond the safe basket lay the big, cold night, and she had never been lit before. Soon, a small, kind pair of hands reached into the basket. It was Anjali, a girl with bright eyes and a happy giggle. Anjali didn't pick the big painted diya. She chose tiny, plain Jyoti. "You look like you need a friend," Anjali murmured. Anjali carried Jyoti outside and placed her gently on the long, smooth window ledge. Clink went the sound of the clay touching the stone. All day, Jyoti watched the preparations. Anjali helped her mother draw beautiful, colorful Rangoli patterns on the floor. She watched Anjali's father hang a string of electric lights that blinked. Blink, blink, blink. They were fast, but they didn't feel very warm. The sun set, painting the sky a deep, sleepy purple. The darkness crept closer, and Jyoti felt her little clay heart flutter. "Be brave, Jyoti," she told herself. "This is it, the time to prove that even a small light can be a good light." Anjali returned. In her hand, she held a matchstick. "Ready, my little friend?" she asked with a soft voice. Flicker, scratch. A tiny fire was born on the end of the match. It was warm and alive. Anjali brought the fire to Jyoti's wick. For 1 second, Jyoti felt a rush of heat, and then, whoosh, a steady, beautiful, golden flame sprang from Jyoti. She was lit. She was shining. The fear was gone, replaced by a warm, happy feeling. Jyoti's light was soft, gentle, and strong. She looked out. She saw another tiny light next to her, and another, and another. They were everywhere. Up and down the street, every house had its own steady, golden glow. Jyoti's little light wasn't alone, it was part of a giant, beautiful constellation. Jyoti realized that spreading light and goodness wasn't scary, it was a party. Every small light added to the victory over the darkness. And so, on the night of Deepavali, tiny Jyoti shone her brightest. Her gentle flame proved that even the smallest heart can hold the biggest light. Leela and the Symphony of Light. The sun wasn't even up, but Leela was wide awake. Deepavali, she loved the lights. But, oh, the noise already. From the street, the horns went, beep, beep. From the house next door, the music went, da-da-dum. It all felt too loud for one little girl. Leela walked into the kitchen where her grandmother, Padma Aji, was making sweets. Padma was quiet, carefully shaping round, sticky ladoos. Padma Aji, Leela whispered, "Why is Deepavali so noisy? I like the light, but the sound makes my ears feel fizzy." Padma Aji just smiled. "Silly girl, that is the sound of joy. You just need to listen for the sweet sounds." Leela sat down and tried. What was the first sweet sound? SSSSS. It was the sound of the hot oil, sizzling as a big, round jalebi was dropped in for frying. SS. It smelled like sunshine and sugar. Then came the next sound, a soft, rich rustle. It was Leela's brand new, deep red lehenga, just waiting for her to put it on. The silk whispered, "Happy day." Ding-a-ling. The doorbell sang. Leela ran to open it. It was their neighbors, Rohan and his sister, Maya. The sound of their footsteps and their laughter was a joyful pitter-patter, ha-ha-ha. This was a much better sound than a car horn. In the evening, the air was full of smells, spices, flowers, and the soft, earthy scent of clay. The next sweet sound was clink, clink. The sound of Padma Aji placing the tiny clay lamps, the diyas. After dinner, Padma Aji closed her eyes and whispered a soft, gentle prayer for happiness and light. OM. Outside, Leela held her first sparkler. It made a sharp, tiny crackle sound as it burst into brilliant light. From far away, there was a deep, soft boom. It was a firework, painted across the dark sky like a flower opening. Padma Aji walked over, her silver bangles getting a quiet, musical jingle on her wrist. She handed Leela a tiny matchstick. Leela took a deep breath, scratch. The match struck the box. The sound was thin and sudden. She lit the wick of her diya. A small, quiet flame was born. It made no sound at all, only light. Leela smiled. The joyful beeps and booms were still there, but now she heard the rustle of new cloves, the sizzle of sweets, and the whisper of prayer. Deepavali was a beautiful symphony of light and sound. The Festival of Shared Light. It was the morning of Deepavali. The whole city was humming with excitement and the smell of sweet treats. Last year, Kaushal lit the first diya for Prince Rama's return. This year, they had a new, special job, the Rangoli. Kaushal had drawn the design yesterday, a beautiful, swirling peacock. Now, it needed color. Red, yellow, blue, and green. Tiny grains of rice and colored powder made patterns bloom on the dark floor of their porch. Perfect, Kaushal whispered. Now, to place the diyas all around the edges for a beautiful, sparkling circle of light. Just then, a little cough made Kaushal look up. It was Vimala, their sweet elderly neighbor, walking slowly by. Vimala's house looked quiet. Her porch was bare, and there were no bright powders or lamps waiting to be lit. "Happy Deepavali, Vimala auntie," Kaushal called out. Vimala stopped and turned around with a gentle, soft smile. "Happy Deepavali, dear Kaushal," she replied. Your Rangoli is already the brightest in the whole street. Kaushal looked at their peacock Rangoli. It was beautiful, but Vimala's porch looked so empty. An idea sparked in Kaushal's mind, brighter than any firecracker. The true light of Deepavali is sharing the joy. Vimala auntie, Kaushal announced, running over to her gate. I will make a Rangoli for your house too. Vimala's eyes crinkled kindly. Oh Kaushal, that is such a sweet offer. Are you sure? It is a lot of work. Yes, said Kaushal, and we can make it even better. We will make a design of little dancing feet for the goddess Lakshmi. So Kaushal went back and brought their bag of bright powders, a dustpan, and a small, smooth cloth for Vimala's porch. First, they swept Vimala's porch until it was spotless and clean, a perfect welcome for the new year. Then, Kaushal kneeled down and began to pour the powder, carefully guiding the color into the shape of tiny footprints. Vimala sat on a low stool nearby, humming a gentle tune as she watched. She felt the spirit of the festival filling her quiet home. By evening, Vimala's doorstep shone with colorful footprints and a line of tiny newly lit diyas that Kaushal had placed. Deepavali is the festival of lights and of homecoming, but Kaushal knew now that it was also the festival of sharing your light, making everyone's home bright. The Festival of Shared Light. It was the morning of Deepavali. The whole city was humming with excitement and the smell of sweet treats. Last year, Kaushal lit the first diya for Prince Rama's return. This year, they had a new, special job, the Rangoli. Kaushal had drawn the design yesterday, a beautiful, swirling peacock. Now, it needed color. Red, yellow, blue, and green. Tiny grains of rice and colored powder made patterns bloom on the dark floor of their porch. Perfect, Kaushal whispered. Now, to place the diyas all around the edges for a beautiful, sparkling circle of light. Just then, a little cough made Kaushal look up. It was Vimala, their sweet elderly neighbor, walking slowly by. Vimala's house looked quiet. Her porch was bare, and there were no bright powders or lamps waiting to be lit. Happy Deepavali, Vimala auntie, Kaushal called out. Vimala stopped and turned around with a gentle, soft smile. Happy Deepavali, dear Kaushal, she replied. Your Rangoli is already the brightest in the whole street. Kaushal looked at their peacock Rangoli. It was beautiful, but Vimala's porch looked so empty. An idea sparked in Kaushal's mind, brighter than any firecracker. The true light of Deepavali is sharing the joy. Vimala auntie, Kaushal announced, running over to her gate. I will make a Rangoli for your house too. Vimala's eyes crinkled kindly. Oh Kaushal, that is such a sweet offer. Are you sure? It is a lot of work. Yes, said Kaushal, and we can make it even better. We will make a design of little dancing feet for the goddess Lakshmi. So Kaushal went back and brought their bag of bright powders, a dustpan, and a small, smooth cloth for Vimala's porch. First, they swept Vimala's porch until it was spotless and clean, a perfect welcome for the new year. Then, Kaushal kneeled down and began to pour the powder, carefully guiding the color into the shape of tiny footprints. Vimala sat on a low stool nearby, humming a gentle tune as she watched. She felt the spirit of the festival filling her quiet home. By evening, Vimala's doorstep shone with colorful footprints and a line of tiny newly lit diyas that Kaushal had placed. Deepavali is the festival of lights and of homecoming, but Kaushal knew now that it was also the festival of sharing your light, making everyone's home bright. Shared light. The air smelled sweet and spicy. It was Deepavali Eve. Neil, a boy of 6, loved the crackle of firecrackers and the brilliant, swirling lights best of all. But the very best part was the big, heavy tray of homemade mithai his mother Meera made every year. He dreamed of jalebis and gulab jamuns. Neil called his mother Mira from the kitchen. Deepavali is not just for eating, silly, it's for giving. Mira wiped her hands on her apron. I need you to take this plate of fresh lettuce to our neighbor, Auntie Vimala. Neil sighed. Auntie Vimala's house was always so quiet. No music, no lights, just plain gray walls. It felt like a year-round rain cloud lived there. He walked up to the dark, simple front door. The plate felt cold and heavy in his hands. Knock, knock, knock. The door opened, and Auntie Vimala smiled a small, gentle smile. Her house was clean, but it had no color, no twinkle, and no sound of celebration. Happy Deepavali, Auntie Vimala, Neil mumbled. My mother sent these for you. They're lattice. Oh, thank you, dear Neil. That is so kind of your family, she said, her voice soft like old silk. Come in for a moment, won't you? She set the sweets on a small table. Then, she opened a little, plain, wooden box on a shelf. The box was empty. This is where I keep my extra diyas, she explained. But I couldn't climb the ladder this year to hang my lights, so I put my diyas away. He looked at the quiet corners of the room. He looked at the empty box, and then Neil had an idea. It was bright and warm, like the sun. Auntie Vimala, wait right here, he shouted, rushing out the door. He didn't even notice the plate was empty now. He ran all the way to his room and found his own special box. Inside were extra diyas and a short string of his favorite star-shaped lights. Mira smiled as Neil explained his plan. She helped him find a little bag of extra, colorful powder for a tiny kolam. Back at Auntie Vimala's door, Neil carefully placed one small clay diya on the doorstep. Mira lit the little wick with a long match. Can I hang these? Neil asked, holding up the string of lights. Just around the door, it's easy, I promise. Auntie Vimala's smile grew bigger. Oh, Neil, that would be wonderful. She helped him hold the step stool steady while he hung the lights. The little stars blinked on. Then, Neil and Auntie Vimala lit 3 more diyas on the windowsill, one by one. Their tiny corner of the street glowed with a warm, shared light. Neil knew then that the most brilliant sparkle of Deepavali wasn't the sweets or the fireworks. It was the happy light you shared with a friend. Rohan's happy light. Flicker, flicker, glow. Little Rohan bounced on his heels. Deepavali was here, and the house was shimmering like a jewel box. The best part was the sweets. His older sister, Priya, was carefully placing bright orange ladoos and sweet flat jalebis onto a silver platter. Can I help with the diyas, Priya Didi? Rohan asked. He loved the little clay lamps, but the thought of the fire made his tummy feel fluttery. Priya showed him a row of unlit lamps on the porch ledge. They were ready with their oil and wicks, waiting for the evening to come alive. Deepavali is the time to chase away shadows, Priya explained softly. The diya is a tiny light, but when we light them all, they shine together like a happy hug. When the sun finally went to sleep, the grown-ups brought out the matches. Rohan watched as the first little flame danced on a wick, then the next, and the next. Your turn, little brother, Priya whispered, handing him a long, safe lighter stick. You just need to touch the stick to the wick, very gently. Rohan looked at the tall flame on the stick, then at the small, dark wick in the diya. He remembered Priya's words, like a happy hug. Taking a brave, deep breath, Rohan poked the wick. FFFSHHH. A golden warmth bloomed. He had done it. His first diya was shining brightly. Rohan and Priya stood back to watch all their little lights twinkle. Together, their happy hearts and the golden diyas made the brightest, warmest Deepavali ever. The light within. The smell of ghee and spices drifted through the air. Tomorrow was Deepavali, the festival of lights, and the house of young Ishani was already twinkling. Ishani was usually the first to start the decorations, but this year, Nani Leela had a new idea, a never-before-seen peacock design for the Rangoli. "It's too hard, Nani," Ishani whispered. "I always make the same simple star pattern. What if I mess up the peacock? What if it looks lopsided?" Nani Leela took a small clay diya from a nearby tray. "My little bird," she said, "Deepavali is not just about lights outside. It's about the light of courage inside you." The story of Deepavali is about Prince Rama returning home after defeating the darkness. The people lit up the way so he could see, but the real light was his bravery. That light of bravery is already in your heart, Ishani. You just need to let it shine on the floor and tell the peacock where to go. Taking a deep breath, Ishani dipped her fingers into the pink powder. She started slowly, making the smooth curves for the peacock's long neck. Then came the fan of feathers, a burst of blue, green, and gold. Ishani was no longer scared. Her hands moved quickly, guided by the picture in her mind. Soon, a magnificent peacock glowed on the floor, surrounded by tiny sparkling lamps. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and it was beautiful. That night, as the fireworks burst and the lamps twinkled, Ishani knew the most wonderful light of all was the courage to try, shining brightly from within her own brave heart. Happy Deepavali!